Welcome to EventNewsDXB. Before we begin, I've got a quick favour to ask. There's one simple way that you can support our podcast, and that's by hitting that follow or subscribe button on the app you're listening to the podcast on right now. It really does make a huge difference in helping us get the podcast out there to as many people as possible. So please give us a hand and click that button now. Thanks a bunch.
EventNewsDXB.
You're listening to the EventNewsDXB podcast, your behind-the-scenes look into the world of events in Dubai, the UAE and the MENA region. I'm Ian Carless, and each week I'll bring you the latest news, industry trends and insider stories from the people shaping one of the world's most dynamic event markets. This week on EventNewsDXB, we're talking to a local Emirati who's responsible for organising one of Dubai's most unique series of events. In 2023, Mohammed Al Shehhi quit his office job to pursue his dream of becoming the UAE's first professional wrestler. That's right, beneath the international glitz and glamour, Dubai has an up-and-coming wrestling scene. At the helm is the man now known to Dubai wrestling fans as Shaheen, which means falcon in Arabic. Fast forward 2.5 years, and after heading to Japan to learn his craft, Mohammad returned and founded WrestleFest DXB. The WWE-styled wrestling events are now an established fixture on the sports and entertainment calendar, regularly pulling in sell-out crowds at their venue in Al Quoz. Mo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Now, for those listeners that don't know, you run WrestleFest DXB.
That's right.
You're a local Emirati. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Not very much of a limb, but what I am going to say is, I think if you'd said there's a local Emirati running a wrestling venture in Dubai, I think a lot of people on the outside world, the Western world, might say, "You what?"
It's crazy. I've always strived to follow the offbeat track.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us then. Let's start at the beginning. What began your journey into wrestling?
I would say it's all started with an event. The WWE, which is the biggest pro wrestling organization, came into the UAE. They hosted an event back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had gone with my friend, and we were completely mind blown by the event. That's the kind of thing that we only watch on TV. And for us to get to experience that live in person, you get to experience the energy of the crowd, the music, the lights, the atmosphere, the whole experience in one package. I think that event on its own had left such an impression on me that not only did I want to run these events, but also I wanted to become a performer myself.
But that's what I was going to say. I mean, lots of people go to events, don't they? I mean, I go to concerts, but it doesn't mean I want to be the next guy from Guns N' Roses, does it? I don't suddenly run out and take a course in how to be a frontman for a super band. You actually did. You went away, and as you said, you decided that not only do I want to watch these things, but I want to be that guy in the ring.
Exactly. That's from the business aspect of things. I noticed that there's a gap, and that there's a fan base, there's a community that is striving to be engaged. We're all hungry for these kinds of events.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be the person that people, get to watch perform on those events.
Right. So not just being a promoter then, because I mean, most people would have just said, okay, yeah, forget being thrown around a ring by a bunch of people. Because I mean, look, I mean, obviously this is an audio podcast, but if I tell you that when I'm sat across Mo right now, you're what, 5'7", something like that. I don't know how many pounds, but you're pretty lean. It's all muscle. I mean, you're not giant haystacks. You're not, The Rock, or you're not, Triple H.
Yeah.
So again, it's just like, I'm just fascinated by what made you actually want to get in the ring.
I would say, as you mentioned, there's a stereotype when it comes to wrestlers.
Yeah.
You got to be big, you got to be jacked, you got to be a certain height.
Yeah.
But over here in Dubai, we have such I would say, a cosmopolitan roster.
Yeah.
People who are young, people who are old, people who are big, people who are small, all kinds of people from different parts of the community get to be part of this event. After long and grueling hours of training, of course. But that's it.
So what was your first step then? How did you go about making that transition from fan to, wrestler?
I would say I had traveled to the UK.
Okay.
And that's where I participated in the first Pro Wrestling Academy.
Okay.
First experience for myself to, dip my toes into that kind of thing. And it's kind of crazy to see how the scene has evolved so much locally just because of one person traveling abroad, getting to soak in all the experiences from different wrestlers, international wrestlers, experienced coaches. It was very funny for me to be in that environment to begin with, because you're talking to a person who was groomed to become a lawyer, a banker, a policeman, a military officer, and going on from that environment to being thrown around. Really got to, instill discipline in me.
Well, I was going to ask that. I mean, you brought it up. Was it a tough sell for your family?
It was in the beginning because, as I mentioned, there's a certain level of expectation. Exactly.
Yeah. How did you win them over?
I would say 5 long years of doing wrestling and pursuing an office job at the same time. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy, my bad. I lived the Clark Kent life to be able to support, to be able to provide for my family, to be able to help out with all the financial matters at home. But when it came to wrestling, that was my escape. That was my passion. That was the place I felt home at.
Right.
So 5 years of doing that, of clocking out of the office at 6, 7 p.m., still fighting my demons to go to the gym, to finish at 9 p.m., go to wrestle, and then coach people all until 11 p.m., and then go back home and repeat. So I was living a double life.
Right.
But it all paid off at the end of those 5 years when I got the opportunity to train overseas at the number 1 pro wrestling academy in the States. I got an official invite. That was the moment my mom said, you know what, maybe this is your calling. You can quit your job. I could care less. For me, it was a hard pill to swallow. I was just looking at my mom thinking like,
hello, is that my mom?
Is that exactly? Was she possessed? What's going on? But it's very, very rewarding to feel that all those 5 years of balancing office job and training at the same time finally paid off.
So you went to that first event, and I'm curious just to know sort of how your mind was working at the time. I mean, you've mentioned you not only wanted to get in the ring, but you specifically wanted to organize events. So then, obviously, the training is one aspect of it. How then did you go about putting the building blocks in place to actually start the events?
Okay, so for those who don't know, when it comes to training pro wrestling, there's a thing called an academy event.
Right.
That's where people who worked hard finally get to showcase their talents.
Right.
And with these academy events, they tend to be filmed. Some family and friends come in, some friends of friends come in. And my first experience was only in front of 5 people.
Oh.
And then the next show we've had 10, and then the next show we've had 15, and the next show we've had 20, and then it went all the way up to 70, up to 100.
Right.
And I saw exponential growth. And I realized, okay, there's an opportunity here. There's something that we can tap into.
Yeah.
That is when we finally decided to export our academy shows to create a promotion and finally find the right place for it, which was at Warehouse 4, to accommodate to such a large number of people coming in.
Yeah. I have to say, I remember distinctly the first time, I think the first event that you did in Warehouse 4. And I remember, I don't know whether it was yourself that had booked in the event, and I saw, I saw WrestleFest DXB, and I thought, what on earth is all that about? And out of curiosity, came down that first night and was absolutely blown away. I mean, I think you'll be the first one to acknowledge, since those early days, the standard has got much, much better,
Definitely.
et cetera, et cetera. But I think if you were going to be distracted, say, by a little bit of lack of finesse in that initial event, it was completely overcome by the audience. I think that's what blew me away more than anything, was just seeing, and it wasn't a huge crowd. It was maybe 70, 80 people, like you said, something like that, maybe a few more. But the energy of the crowd and the fact that they knew who all the wrestlers were, they'd had all the chants, they knew everybody's like nicknames and everything. And, and everybody's going, hit the ref, and all the other chants that go with it. I think that's what blew me away. Yeah. I don't actually have a question on the back of that, other than to say, I think my expectations were somewhat, probably down there, but they were exceeded beyond anything that I could imagine. Yeah.
And every other event, I think the fans get to prove to us why we want to continue.
Yeah.
Whether we get only 50 or whether we get 200 people.
Yeah.
It's the energy that keeps us going.
Yeah.
It's their enthusiasm, their chants, the craziness that they bring, the rowdiness from both parents and kids and people who come in there for their first dates. I don't know who does that, but if you're listening to this, they bring in their first dates over there, and then they get to, they're hooked to the event, and they come every other event. And it's just wild to see people getting married because of that. We've had a couple get married, and their first date was at WrestleFest DXB.
Listen, I think they're onto something there. If you can go on a first date and survive that, and either one of you is happy with the other one after that, then you're onto something, right? So, look, I mean, on a serious note, I think most events, whether they're sporting or otherwise, there's usually obviously an element of finance to it, and payoff. But I imagine in your case, that would have been extremely difficult at the beginning, and you were probably relying a lot on goodwill of others. Can you talk to us a bit about that, about those, certainly those early events? Because I know, you do have a big team of wrestlers now, and also a team of people who come in and help, don't they? Literally put up the stage, take down the stage, and do all the jobs behind the scenes for which, often there are no thanks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So also, for those who don't know, the way pro wrestling events are ran locally and overseas, it's mainly driven by the focus, the goodwill, the fire, and the passion of the talent that is on that show.
Absolutely.
You can be the main event on the main event, and you could be the one who puts together the ring that night. You could be the one who does the lights. You could be the one who does the tickets at the door. It doesn't matter to us, because it's an experience that gets us humbled and value the organization, value the reason why we're here, which is the fans at the end of the day. So to go back to your point, starting off with that wasn't easy, because there was an expectation. From moving to the academy to the warehouse, a lot of people thought it was an instant upgrade. They didn't know that that there was going to be a whole lot of different tornadoes and sandstorms and everything on the way for us, starting from financing, because it was all self-financed. It was us not relying on pay, because we wanted to just entertain the fans. It was us doing the photography, the videography. It was us setting up the ring ourselves, which we do to this day, because at the end of the day, we value what we do. We value what we put our bodies on the line at the end of the day for the entertainment of the fans. It was a tough pill to swallow to begin with. The early days was completely self-financed. And as you know, something so new, something so fresh, reaching out to sponsors, to people who don't believe in your vision, you get shut down so many times. But it's a matter of going forward. Keep going. That's why I kept my day job. I had the option of quitting so early on just to run these events, but I decided that if I had kept my day job just to finance these events, things are going to pay off.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think that's a perennial problem of a lot of event organisers and event promoters. I think, Rome wasn't built in a day. Nobody starts out with events. Okay, some do, but if you're a huge band or something, but most people don't start out with events in 10,000-seater venues. And most events need help along the way. But sadly, I think there's not too many, let's just say, corporate entities that are willing to share the vision with you and share the growth. Many are willing to jump onto something that's already successful, but the large majority, do not want to support something from the ground up, which is a real shame, and creates, as you say, a real problem for you guys when you're trying to get something off the ground.
But it still opened our eyes to how the events and how business are ran in the UAE. So every time we get shut down, I don't take no for an answer. I'm a go-getter. I ask why.
Right.
Tell me why. It's fine. I don't want anything but your reasoning.
Yeah.
And if it's something as simple as, well, the marketing is not worth it, the impressions are not worth it, and I just look them in the eye and say, okay, I'm going to work on it in the future. So in my free time, I go back home, I study, I analyze, how do I get to reach that person's level? I want my events to hit these people's marketing targets. What initiatives can I do? Who can I collaborate with? So many different pieces that come together for me to be able, as a promotion, to hit the sponsors' marketing targets and marketing objectives and sponsorship objectives, which helps you to scale at the end of the day, if I'm being honest.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, how do you approach that then? Because I think, I've run events in the past. For example, we organised the Dubai Motorcycle Film Festival, and I think obviously, these are in the grand scheme of things, these aren't 10,000 seat events, So I think there's got to be a certain cognizance there in terms of what you go in and ask for. It's no good me going in and asking for $1 million for an event for which 150 people are going to turn up for. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So you do have to have a level of realism.
Yes. And that level of realism really aligns with what we do as pro wrestlers. With professional wrestling, the more matches we have under our belts, the more, I would say, the more experienced we are, the more knowledge, the more respected we are by our peers.
Yeah.
So if you put that together with what the sponsors want in such a small place, we look at it and say, you know what? Maybe in that case, since it's not a 10,000 seater venue, we can do 12 events in 1 year. That way, as a wrestler, I do get in 12 matches, just that locally in Dubai. And at the same time, I can make the sponsors happy. You've got the long-term objectives. You've got the long-term vision. And to them, it seems like a 1-year campaign, which really helped us in our benefit.
So talk us through a typical event. I mean, I think you just alluded to it there. You do at the moment one main event every month.
Yes.
Talk us through that. Talk us through the sort of format of that event.
So when it comes to formatting the events, our academy runs 5 days a week, where most of the people come in and basically fight for an opportunity. They showcase their best performances. They work on their in-ring stuff. They work on their cardio. They work on their weightlifting. They work on their characters. They work on their gear. There's a lot of different things that come into play. And then from that, we get to nominate who gets on the shows.
Who gets on the card,
who gets on the card, basically.
Yeah. I know my lingo.
And then, and then we align that together with if there's any interest from overseas wrestlers who are flooding our social media profiles. Everybody gets to see the level of quality, the content, I would say the professionalism in the setup, because Ian, if I'm being honest, I'm going to show you our direct competitors from different parts of the world, how their venues are being set up. It's not as professional as Warehouse 4, especially with the lighting, the camera work, the seating. It's usually done in bingo halls or music venues that are too big, and that basketball courts.
Yes.
So we're very lucky to have found a place or a space like Warehouse 4.
Yeah.
So that really gets in a lot of international interest, and a lot of the international names and stars that you get to see on our shows are people reaching out to want to be part of this. I don't reach out to them with a big check saying, "Hey, I want you at Warehouse 4."
I was going to ask that. I mean, how does that? Where does? I mean, because you would imagine that most people think, "Oh, great, free holiday to Dubai."
Exactly,
All I have to do is jump in the ring for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
No,
so it's
so they're basically paying their own way
most of the time, yes, because it's a holiday.
Yeah,
it's a holiday destination, and you've got the name Dubai. You've got sunshine.
Of course.
Most of them come in from the UK, where it's cloudy and dark and gloomy.
Really?
So it's a 2-in-1. It's a free holiday, and it's a 20-minute match.
Yeah. How do you make that work for you then? Obviously, because how informed is your audience here?
So a lot of them actually just watch the big leagues.
Right.
Okay, which are divided into 3 big promotions.
So you got
around the world. WWE, and then you've got AEW, and then you've got New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Right.
Anything below that is the independent circuits.
Right.
With the independents, there's also levels. There's high, there's medium, and there's low.
Yeah.
I would put WrestleFest DXB on the high to medium threshold for sure.
Right.
Comparing us to all the high level promotions around the world.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how people perceive our product.
So in terms of your own roster, you mentioned the academy. How does that work? So it's open to anybody that wants to come in and give it a go. And then let's just say, for example, I'm never going to do this, but let's just say in a moment of insanity, I decided I wanted to be a pro wrestler.
Okay.
And came through your academy door and said, "Mo, I want to be a wrestler."
So starts off with a physical assessment. We see
I fail that.
We see how tough you are. We see cardio, your strength level, your speed, your agility. And we work on your weaknesses. That's how it is. It's not a do or die situation where we have a gun to your head and say, "Oh, you're not a pro wrestler. Just leave the academy."
Yeah.
It's showcasing your strengths. It's working on your weaknesses.
Right.
That is our utmost pride at the academy.
Yeah.
If you're someone who can't make it, we make sure by the end of these 6 months, you're closer to the goal of making it.
Now, again, going back to stereotypes, I am aware that one of the wrestlers that you've got through the door is probably the least looking like a wrestler, the Filipino girl. I've forgotten her name off the top of my head.
Roxy,
there
yes.
you go. But I mean, there's someone who if you met in the street and you said to him, what do you do for a living? Wrestling wouldn't be the first thing on the top of your mind, would
So
it?
she's the youngest we have on the roster. She is the only female we have currently at the roster who is getting a lot of interest from female fans at the moment to want to become pro wrestlers.
Wow.
A lot of the females in attendance at our events just go up to Roxy and say, "Can I train with you? Can I be doing what you're doing right now?" And she's doing great at that right now. So
And again, just for the benefit of our listeners, I mean, Roxy is what? She's 5 foot.
she's 5'5".
Yeah, weighs what, like 3
50
pounds?
50 kgs, but she moves like a rocket. Just see her in the ring. She's jumping up and down, left and right. Absolute pleasure to watch in the ring.
And as you say, a fantastic role model for girls out there who perhaps, would look at that and go, oh, that's not for me. And then they look at her and go, oh, well, hold on a minute.
It is for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is one big point that we like to focus on our events is inspiring the audience at the end of the day. No matter where you come from, what your background is, what your size is, we're always welcoming to have more people on our roster to showcase that anybody can be a wrestler.
Right. Now, you've been going for quite a few years now. So in terms of being able to actually sustain the events without always having to dip into your own pocket, how difficult has that been, and where are you at the moment with that?
So we just celebrated our 3rd anniversary
Mm-hmm.
last weekend, which is insane to see how time has flown.
Yep.
But looking at the output, I just can't wait to see where we'll be at the next 3 years. So in those 3 years, a lot of those fans who came in were people who actually like to help and fund the business, whether it's through doing merchandise for us, whether it's a ticket organizer. We've had someone who come in was a marketing manager at the Virgin Megastore and said, "I love this event. Can you just showcase your events on our ticketing website?" And that's how things have been running for us. It's insane to see how these events bring people and professionals from different backgrounds, from different workplaces, from different offices, from different jobs, for them to come up to us and say, "I want to help. I want to grow this place." And so far in these 3 years, because of that, we got someone from Virgin Megastore. We had our PR agent is a fan.
Right.
We've got our host. He was a fan. We've got people who are selling our merchandise. They were fans. We've got people doing tickets at the door. They're our fans. We've got our merchandise suppliers, our fans. So it's just crazy to see how it's so community focused. And it's not the vision that I had initially. But 3 years later, I'm just glad that it grew this to a community focused event. At the end of the day, if there's no community engagement, there's no impact. And that's the word we're looking for, impact.
Now, in terms of sort of outside help, I know that you've been given a bit of a leg up, if you like, from Dubai Sports Council. How have they helped your journey?
So when it comes to the Dubai Sports Council, it's mostly access to their network or access to their logistics, nothing financial, unfortunately for us, because when people look at our product, they see it as a sports product, but to others, it's an entertainment product. So how do you put the two together?
It's not called WWE.
Exactly, right? So it's a sports entertainment product.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult at the beginning to explain to the legislators, to explain to the council, to the tourism board, that what we do is, in essence, it's a sport and it's an entertainment event. And we intend on putting those two and keeping those two together. We have kids coming in nagging their parents that they want to see their favorite wrestlers in attendance. They don't watch it because of the sport. They watch it because of the entertainment.
Yeah.
And then you have the adults who come in for both. So back to my point about the Sports Council support. It's providing us with medical team to help if God forbid something happens. They help us out with permits. They help us out with the minor things that give us admin headaches, which I'm so grateful for, especially with things like these. They get to suck the energy out of you, if you know what I mean, when it comes to admin work, paperwork, applying and waiting for a few days, and then you have to do it again if there was a minor error. So they do help us out a lot, and I'm so grateful to them for helping us in that aspect.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, obviously the big elephant in the room for me is, what about WWE? What have they noticed? Are they across the smaller independent events and promotions that are going on?
Okay.
And if so, how do they get involved? I mean, even for me, sitting in your shoes, I would think, oh, it'd be nice just to, get mentioned. I mean, imagine if they gave us a little plug on their Instagram page. Do you know what I mean? I mean, even that could...
2 points. There is WWE signed an exclusive contract to run Middle East shows in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
I think that's running up until 2033, 2034.
Right.
All the events running in the region are exclusive to that country.
Right.
Which had given us the benefit to run our shows here locally. Now that started with a vision, with a lot of roadblocks, but with our passion and our focus, we were able to push within these 3 years to create the product, the WrestleFest DXB product. And from gaining international attention to getting eyes from people working in the WWE is, for us, is a seal of approval. We hadn't gotten any mention on socials yet, or any mention on any press releases, but I know people who work there who tell me that they do have an eye on the area. They do have an eye on the talent, and they just want us to keep going. They just want us to be able to engage the fans, to grow our fan base, to improve our own skill set. Because you never know, one day they would want to scout talent from the region or scout talent from Dubai, because they did host tryouts 5 years ago. You never know when they might come back.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, thinking about it now, you would hope, like many other sports, certainly at the professional level, there is a trickle down of funds down to the grassroots of each sport. I mean, and let's face it, wrestling is no different to football, golf, cricket, or whatever. You've got to have a talent pool coming through. Yeah. I mean, if they didn't have the talent pool, they wouldn't have a product.
Exactly.
So...
Okay, so it's funny that you mentioned that, because they had just launched an initiative this year, which is called the WWE ID.
Right.
So as a talent in any location across the globe, you can get ID'd by WWE. That gives you credibility, gives the promotion you come from credibility. It gives the academy that you come from a sense of credibility as well. And they announce a new talent for WWE ID every single month. We hope for one of us to be chosen just to get that seal of approval.
And so explain to me, how does that work?
So
when you say ID, so that they're going to appear on an undercard somewhere, or how does that work? So
the way WWE works is that you've got the main product, which is on Netflix right now. And then you've got their developmental, which is NXT. And then below that, they've got the WWE ID. The WWE ID is basically, you get scouted either online, or you could be on a show in the States, an independent show, and there's a WWE official there, and you get WWE ID'd, so you get acknowledged by the WWE. And you can keep going and doing your own thing. But that's a seal of approval of them saying that we're watching you, and we hope to get you to our developmental brand for you to get ready to be on Netflix.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah, absolutely.
So from the grassroots all the way up.
So before we wrap up, a couple more just on the event itself. You've been at a certain level now for the last couple of years. What is the next level, and how do you get there?
TV. We would absolutely love to get a TV spot, either in Dubai or an international TV. because that is what gets us as performers to the next level.
Right.
I had just come in from a show in Delhi, India, and I had low expectations because I've traveled, I've done a lot of shows overseas, and this is like my 19th or 20th country that I've performed in. So to me, it felt like another day at the office.
Right.
And the moment I landed and got driven all the way to the venue, I noticed something different. There's security check, there's this, there's that, there's a form you need to sign, there's barbers on set, there's lights, there's cameras, there's costume makers on set. And I thought to myself, what is going on here? This is next level. And they said, yeah, we're filming for TV for the next 2 months. That's why you're here for 5 days. We're going to shoot episodes on the daily.
Right.
So to me, that was a very eye-opening experience, not only as a performer, but also as a promoter.
Would that be for a Netflix or for an Amazon
It
or
would
for a
be
local?
for local TV.
Right.
And the reason being is because WWE got a Netflix deal all across the globe. So you can see that there's an opportunity now in the slot that WWE was for different promotions to be on that spot. You're talking millions of viewers. So for anyone who can step up, that would be the spot for them. And just being in that environment and soaking in all the knowledge from the promoters to the producers to the television team to the filming team, on the way back to Dubai on the plane, I was just thinking it's a capability that Dubai has. It's a capability that we see on boxing events, that we see on basketball events, and we see this insane production for these grassroots sports like boxing and volleyball and basketball. Why can't the same be done for wrestling? So that is what's next.
Right. And then before we wrap up, so looking ahead, we're March now. Are we April? So we're April now.
April,
We're
already.
April. Yeah. What's in place for the rest of the year?
More events, more craziness, more rowdiness, more big names coming in from overseas, and definitely a plan to do bigger venues, sold out venues, and the chance to meet more fans.
Well, you've definitely been selling out hours. You've definitely been selling out Warehouse 4. And if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
WrestleFest DXB on Instagram, WrestleFestDXB.com. And if you want to see more of my stuff, it's at Shaheen of the Sky.
Shaheen of the Sky. There you have it. Well, Shaheen of the Sky, I've got one last question to ask you before we go. We've been asking everybody this. I'm a music fan. I'm sure you are too. You've got your walk-in music. Number one, what's your walk-in music?
Of Mice and Men.
Of Mice and Men?
Yeah.
And secondly, what's on your playlist right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'd say a lot of the TikTok music's popping on into my my playlist. Okay. I've really been digging The Neighborhood recently.
The Neighborhood?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Mo, wish you the best of luck for the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you.
Event News DXB was presented by myself, Ian Carlos. The studio engineer and editor was Roy DeMonte. The executive producer was myself and Joe Morrison. And this podcast is a co-production between Warehouse 4 and W4 Podcast Studio Dubai. And if you haven't done so already, please do click that follow or subscribe button. See you next time.
Event News DXB.